What is going on, YouTube people? Neo Cards and Comics here for the weekly sports card market update. Kind of a little newsy heavy this week. Nothing super crazy. The biggest, wildest, crazy thing is all the Panini Fanatics speculation. That's we talked about that yesterday. Um, but a lot of other just little smaller stories kind of popped up this week that I just didn't get a chance to talk about. So that'll kind of be the focus of today's stuff. We do have a little bit of charts and graphs I pulled up. The NBA playoffs start this week. Very intrigued to kind of see how that plays out. I think generally speaking, honestly, most as the playoffs wear on, we're going to lose more players, so values are probably going to slide down on more guys than what's going to go up. I do think you'll see some spikes on guys that come out of the woodwork. I'm going to use this as an example. It's a homer pick, but Darius Garland, for example, if you really watch the NBA, you know Darius Garland is really good. He kind of gets overshadowed by Donovan Mitchell. If he had a big moment in the playoffs, a DeJounte Murray, those more second tier guys, maybe Jaylen Brown has a really big game. Tatum, stuff's already baked in. Donovan Mitchell, already baked in. Giannis, Embiid, the Joker, those sorts of guys. If I'll give you another good one, former hobby darling, Michael Porter Jr., if he comes out and has a massive series or a massive couple games or has a big game and some game-winning shots, whatever. Guys like that are probably going to see spikes. Maybe some guys from the Kings, like a Fox or Sabonis, have a big series and maybe they go on a deeper run than kind of what people expect. But the general theme is players that don't have a lot of expectations on them or don't have a lot baked into the price already. Those are the guys that you're more likely going to see price spikes with in the playoffs versus the known quantities. The known quantities are baked in already. Jason Tatum not making the NBA Finals or winning the NBA Finals would probably be a disappointment for the card market because of the lofty goals people have on him. Same with Embiid, Joker, Giannis, all those guys. LeBron's prices will be interesting to kind of see what those do if they even make the playoffs formally. We have the play-in first. So I'll do a little bit of a deeper dive on NBA playoffs maybe later this week once we have formal matchups and get through the play-ins. But I am excited for that to start. I do really enjoy the NBA. I like watching basketball. And the last week of the season has been a disgrace. Luka is formally shut down now. Very intriguing offseason for the Mavericks and kind of how that ball plays out. We also have the beginning of baseball season. A lot of people getting excited for that. It'll also be, I was talking to some dealers about this today at the Hartville show. I was at my local Hartville show today that I go to as often as possible about, it was pretty nice today. It was a little chilly, but it was nice. And we're kind of heading into the spring, eventually, hopefully comes to Ohio. And, we're going to head into summer. The weather's getting nicer. People have more things to do. I wonder if we start to see shows slow down a little bit. Hartville today seemed about par for the course. Maybe not quite as busy as normal, but still well attended. That show is a little bit tricky to figure out who's there for the cards and who's there for the flea market. It's an indoor flea market with an outdoor component. With the weather breaking, it picks up traffic in there quite a bit on a Saturday morning. But I'll just be curious to kind of monitor over the next month or two kind of how show attendance goes and how those vibes go. If it kind of backs up kind of what we've discussed previously with the cyclical nature of things with, kind of show attendance and card interest peaking in January, February, and March, slowing down in the spring and summer, picking up with football season, slowing down again with the holidays, and then once again, rinse repeating, picking back up again. So also interesting to track baseball prices as we move deeper into the season. Same things we talked about before. Expectations now meet reality, and the lofty expectations that the hobby puts on these players, they now have to back that up. I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see decreases in Soto cards and Vlad Guerrero Jr. and Acuna, all the hot popular names that you see, and all those guys are having perfectly fine starts to their season. But if they're not cranking home runs every other night of the week, you lose the zeitgeist very quickly. And guys will come out of the woodwork and come up that no one was expecting. So we'll have to see how that plays out as well. I did make 2 deals at the card show. I won't do a separate video on this. It was just 2 quick ones. I did a prearranged deal where I moved some, what I mean by prearranged is we agreed to it on IG and then I just brought stuff with me. Did a wax trade, traded off some basketball and baseball wax, some odds and ends of stuff, various different products. from 2022, 2021, 2023 for a case of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet booster boxes. We just pretty much traded dead even comp for comp. And so I stashed that away. I wanted to pick up a case of that, and this was just an easier way to go about it. I reached into my stash of wax and moved it to one of the dealers that sets up all the time. Gives him a little bit of a different variety and product mix, and kind of split that box up into things that might sell to different audiences. So it was a win-win for both of us. And then another dealer that I work with, Jeff, picked up a Blue Sparkle Topps Heritage J-Rod in a bulk deal that he picked up. And then I quickly picked it up from him, gave him a quick $10 profit over what he paid for it. So I think it's a PSA 9, having looked at it. I don't think it'll 10, which is kind of what I expected based off the centering and a few other quick little things. But I'll probably end up sending it in, and even in a PSA 9, I think it'll do okay. I won't break the bank on it, but it'll be good trade bait. It's a good looking card. I have the PSA 10 version of it already. Or maybe I'll keep the 9 and sell the 10. I don't know. But I put that in the pile to go off for a PSA submission. So those are my 2 deals from the show. Let's get into just some chit-chat, newsy stuff. First off, kind of transitioning into PSA. No PSA special yet. Usually I was banking on a PSA special last week of some shape or form, and we haven't gotten one. Frankly, I mean, you could kind of see their side of it. They did 1.2 million cards last month. Do they really need one? Now, there are other things that are part of the special beyond just getting cards in the door. You're throwing a bone to your Collectors Club members to give them a reason to pay for that service, because you give them the specials every month to kind of rotate through. I still wouldn't be surprised if we get something at some point in time. Maybe, and I don't know, it seems like orders are still turning around in a decent amount of time, at least bulk stuff. Maybe they just want to take a breather this month and say, hey, we're going to take a couple weeks, get caught up a little bit, and then reopen the floodgates with some new pricing. Or maybe they're working on something. I don't know. I just kind of assumed we were going to get one, and we didn't. So we'll see what happens with that. We have one other PSA thing to briefly touch on here in a minute, but let's pop over to SGC, the old SGC boys. I heard this discussed on the Mojo Break podcast. I believe they have a YouTube channel too, where they put the podcast out on, but I typically just listen to the audio version of it. They did an interview with Layton Sports, and this was the most recent episode from Post the Mint. And they did an interview with Layton Sports talking about something that he was going to be doing at the end of the episode. He discussed a upcoming break that they were going to be doing. And the break is going to be happening later this month directly from SGC's headquarters. Now, SGC's in Florida, Layton's in Florida, so it kind of makes sense. They're going to break the new 2023 Bowman product that's about to come out. And basically, they weren't really clear on how it was going to work on the grading side of things, but essentially, SGC is going to take the cards from the break and grade them. Now, I reached out to Peter and talked to Peter after I heard this to get a little bit more details. They are going to basically be grading in real time. I don't know the finer points of how this is going to work, but essentially, if you get a big hit from a break, they're going to take the card from the break, take it over to the grading team. They're essentially going to grade it in as near real time as you can get, and bring the card back out and show it off on the break. I think that's kind of cool. I'm not going to lie. It's innovative. I haven't seen anyone else do this. Maybe other grading companies have discussed it. I don't know. But it is an interesting kind of meshing of two worlds that you wouldn't think would go together. Breaking and grading from the same spot. I believe Topps is involved in this as well, because they are breaking this early. So Topps/Fanatics, I believe, gave Layton the permission to break this product before street date at the SGC headquarters for this special break. I didn't look at details on the break or anything like that in regards to pricing, so I'm sure it'll all be posted up on Layton's website. But I just thought it was a really cool cross-marketing thing. Topps/Fanatics is involved, SGC is involved, Layton's involved. A nice little mix of different companies there. Kind of a cool thing. Like I said, it'd be interesting to kind of see how it goes. I watch Layton breaks on occasion. I don't really I've never bought into a break, so I don't buy into them, but they are my go-to for trying to get a vibe on a product. They have a good setup. They break very quickly, and you could watch a couple of videos and get a good idea of how a product looks, how it pulls, what kind of stuff's in there. They're one of my go-tos for whenever I want to kind of see how a product breaks down from a ripping perspective. But that should be pretty fun. I just thought that was a cool, interesting little thing that they're doing. So more details to follow on that. I'm sure SGC and Layton will cross-promote it more when it gets closer to. But just sounds like a fun little thing. In the grading news space, continuing on. No, we're not talking about Beckett today, I swear. CGC. This is not fully sports related, but CGC cards finally announced Marvel on their population report. So that will now officially be on their pop report going forward. All the old stuff get added in. They were a little behind on getting that in there. And I found that the thing that I found interesting was they've graded close to 30,000 Marvel cards already. It's actually pretty strong. I was looking at some comparison numbers to like SGC's total Marvel card graded on pop, and CGC is very close to what they've already done based on the numbers that GemRate gave me. So shout out to him for the data. But with them only really have grading Marvel for would have been grading like 6 months now, maybe 7 months. Oh, that was pretty good to gain that much in the, I hate to say market share, but I guess that's the right term for it, in the slab space, if you will, of the Marvel card space. So I thought that was pretty cool. They're my go-to for Marvel card stuff, unless it's like purely I want to maximize profit, then I'll send it to PSA. But anything for my PC for Marvel stuff is going to CGC. The comic book match label and anyone knows I love the slabs. They are crystal clear and cards look fantastic in them. Absolutely fantastic. So glad that that is finally up and running. Circling back, one last grading bit of news. PSA launched, I don't know if it's a new app or part of their existing app. It's called Slab Folio. This isn't something I would ever really use. Basically, if you have cards vaulted with them, I believe, or once they're graded, you could kind of take the images from the website and do a bunch of, basically, I don't want to say Instagram filters, but you can add a bunch of different backgrounds. You can see it here on the image to take better photos of your cards, which is cool. It's a fun little thing to play around with. I'll probably never use this, but I thought it was at least worth a quick little mention. So, with all that being said, that's pretty much all the newsy bits for today. I'm sure I'm forgetting something, but you can all let me know in the comments down below. Let's hop over to Market Movers really quickly and just look at a couple different charts and graphs. If you want your own versions of these, the link is in the description down below. Feel free to go check it out. First up, basketball. Zion. Zion. I don't know what's more comical. Zion's non-playing most of the season or the health updates that the Pelicans put out. They are the most non-detailed, just a straight joke of a health update that you could possibly put. Zion continues to practice. Cool. Is he coming back? Is he not? Doesn't sound great. His stuff has consistently trended down most of this year. I went back 90 days on this, which pretty much puts us right at the beginning of the year. His silver PSA 10 Prism is down 33%, and I would be shocked, even if they made the first round, if we see Zion in the playoffs. It's just going to be tough. It's hard to ramp back up to play in the NBA, and then ramping back up and immediately hopping into the playoffs just seems like it's asking for trouble. Maybe he gets on the court, maybe he doesn't, but his stuff continues to free fall just based off him not being able to play. If it was all about the talent and he could stay on the court, he would be amazing and a hobby darling. My fear with him always was his inability to stay on the court and stay healthy. So I was always Team Ja over Team Zion. Now, Team Ja has its own set of problems so far this year, so we'll see how that works out. But at least when he's not getting in trouble, he could stay on the court most of the time. Oh, Ja, what are we going to do with you? But Zion stuff continues to trend down. If you wanted to buy low, I guess keep an eye on his stuff. It's just not a game I'm willing to play. I'm sure that, you could probably do okay there and, maybe sneak in and then sell it later in the summer when people forget. But I think people have been burned enough by him at this point that they're going to be very cautious moving forward and kind of want to see him play a full season. Speaking of gentlemen trending down, we talked about this earlier. Same time period, 90 days. Luka Silver PSA 10 also down about 30%. This card was flirting with 1.4K. I was looking at some auctions of this, posted a community post about it the other day. And I guess my question to you all is, where do you think, and I'm going to in the short term, over the next couple months as we move throughout the summer, where do you think Luka Silver PSA 10's bottom at? I don't know that 1400 is the bottom. There's definitely room for it to continue to go down. That's for sure. They're a mess. That Mavericks team is an absolute mess, and a lot of it's going to depend on what happens with the offseason. Now, I say that it could continue to go down. If they get super lucky and they win the Victor sweepstakes, look out. That's a whole different bag of cats. That would radically reverse fortunes. Or if they pull off some miracle off-season move, I just don't see it. I don't see it. I don't think re-signing Kyrie moves the needle from a card pricing perspective. And letting him go, yeah, they get some cap room out of it, but the free agency class is not that great. And they don't have much in the way of assets to spin off in additional deals. So we'll have to see what happens. But as someone that has one Luka card left, the Blue Mosaic, I'm willing to ride that one. We're taking that one all the way to the basement. I moved off everything else Luka that I had over the last 6 months or so. We'll see what happens. We will see what happens. Switching over to baseball. One quick one I wanted to touch on in baseball. Wander Franco, remember him? Remember the last year at this time in March, the hottest player that everyone was talking about? He had a pretty crappy year last year, and his prices tanked. Guess what? He's actually having a pretty good year this year. He started off very, very well. His card prices have snuck up a little bit. This is his first Bowman Chrome Auto, up from 1K to 1.4K. That's a 38% increase in just the last 2 weeks. And we have a couple different sales there backing it up. It's not just a one-off. So Wander playing well. His stuff is sneaking up. And this is exactly what I was talking about. No one was talking about Wander in the preseason. It was all Ohtani this, J-Rod that. And no expectations were put on Wander. He comes out, little post-hype sleeper. He comes out of the gates hot, and his prices spike up. Now, will it hold? Probably not. It'll probably settle back in at a slightly lower price unless he keeps going ham. We'll have to see. But this is an exact example of kind of what I was discussing earlier. Not a lot of expectations put on him this year going into the season. So then when he comes in and actually has a hot start, his prices move up. Last but not least, let's flip over to football. And I noticed something interesting in football this week. Going back the last 30 days, we are starting to see consistent movement up. Now, it's limited sales data because these don't transact a ton. But Burrow Silver Prism over the last 30 days up 26% from 1.9 to 2.4. Herbert PSA 10 Silver Prism up 15%. Josh Allen Opticalo 10 up 24%. So it seems like, at least for the time being, that the quarterbacks seem to kind of bottom out in February/March-ish and are slowly starting to creep back up again. You know, we had the little off-season thing there where the certain players got buzzy with all the transactions. None of these guys were really involved with that. And now we are on the slow, steady march to the beginning of the season. We'll have to see how prices go as we move throughout the spring and actually into the summer. But it was just kind of curious that when I ran down a couple of these names, that all of them had pretty significant increases over the last 30 days. So we'll see what happens over the next 30, but definitely something worth mentioning and keeping an eye on. So that is all I have for you boys and girls today. Everyone have a happy Easter. If that is your thing, go look for some eggs. Go bite some chocolate ears off a bunny. We'll catch you boys and girls on the next one. Peace.